How much money you guys think they spent on this tracking shot of Baz B to remind us that he was dead? What? 500, 1,000, maybe $1,500. But episode 1 of the final core is out. It is off the checklist. That means there are only 9 more episodes to go to wrap up our childhoods. My first profile picture from Facebook was Hollow Ichigo. I am a long way away from 2010, but I am happy I never lost the passion to still watch, analyze, and review anime. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on alerts. This is where you want to be every Saturday for Bleach reviews and much more. I am Zaku Zealot. I break down manga, I do character analysis. I am still trying to keep this art form alive on YouTube. I love discussion. If you want to join the Discord, the link is located in the description below. Now, as someone who saw the movie, I think they should release the movie after the final core is over. The movie cut of the first 3 episodes is just pieced together really well. It gives it a really nice cinematic feel. However, with confirmation that we're only getting 10 episodes, I completely understand why they didn't release the movie first. But the television cut does start off with plugging a hole in Ichigo and Yhwach's final fight, so spoiler incoming. The dream Yhwach is having, where we see Ichigo fighting alongside his original Zangetsu, is the dream Jurgam tried to show him while he was asleep. If you didn't see the movie or haven't touched the manga in a while, they add small little scenes like this and little like 30-second to minute bursts. So a lot of the new information I think people will be looking for, some of it will be obvious, but some of it you really have to lock in and pay attention to. Now, Yhwach at this point in time, since absorbing the Soul King's power, he does seem to be falling into madness. Now, I have seen this idea in my comments before. I have also played around with the idea of Yhwach falling into madness due to the Almighty. Arrogance and power are a deadly duo, and arrogance is the cancer of most villains in Bleach. It happened with Aizen, and now Yhwach, but because of the Almighty, watching it unfold with Yhwach, it just seems like he's more mentally corrupted by the power versus Aizen after he merged with the Hogiku. Now, coming out of the open, is something you probably already heard it, but we have the intro. It's called I Bull by Joji, I believe I pronounced that correctly. And then we get what I remember seeing in theaters, which was first just a lot of tracking shots of the Vizards and Shinigami, and one more confirmation that Baz B is dead. And then we get Ichigo, Orihime, and Chad. This scene was reworked. I believe the best of what I wanted to see, however, is not going to be until episode 3. However, what we did get is Chad and Ganju. First off, the Calamity. Being the in-game fights between all of those who stood outside of Soul Society versus the future of the Shinigami like Byakuya, Kenpachi, Toshiro, who had Ichigo's back and called him friend. It's a really good payoff if you've been watching or reading since episode or chapter 1. But seeing Urahara, Yoruichi, Ganju, Orihime, Uryu, and Chad, it just reminds you of the OG game from the start of Ichigo's journey. Now, something I noticed, and this is a character building moment, Ichigo has to say goodbye to Uryu so he can take on Jurgam. And what I noticed is that when Uryu tells Ichigo that these won't be his last words, Ichigo has a faint smile. And I think that's because there's some kind of implicit trust that he has in Uryu. And I also think it's something related to them also just being Quincy's, having similar backgrounds and just being spit through the fire of life. There's a brothership that's formed there. However, with Chad, what makes me proud is that he, along with Orihime, was able to find their place next to Ichigo. They're ascending the steps all the way to get to Yhwach. But unlike Orihime, whose destiny is to become an asset to Ichigo in his fight, that's not Chad's job. So Chad's going to step off here when these statues come alive and they start attacking. You don't see that same faint smile that Ichigo gives Uryu. However, his expression, I don't think, alludes to him not trusting Chad. I believe it's just that he can now go fight without worry. Remember, the last time he had trust in Chad, it was during Soul Society, and we saw what happened against Shunsui. But I think this is a completely different situation. There's a level of confidence that Chad has. It's the thumbs up. And what's funny is that this scene is expanded upon in Can't Feel Your Own World. So I hope they bring some of this into the Thousand-Year Blood War. But Chad and Ganju, they're taking out these statues, and Ichigo, they're making a path for Ichigo. But in reality, Ichigo's not taking that path back. Ichigo is going to cut his own path. And this is kind of just, I hate to say it, it's kind of more of a comedic relief moment. And if you've read Can't Feel Your Own World, where Hasaki's going around playing Paperboy, he interviews Ganju and they bring up this scene, and you can kind of see the comedy behind it. But however, it is just a huge thematic moment for Chad, and I'm glad that he found his way alongside Ichigo, and he can just confidently step off at this point in time, because this is where he's going to be most effective. Now, moving on from there, we do go back to Jurgam and Uryu, and this is where you can tell me if you see the exact same thing. But just like Yhwach, Jurgam seems to be falling into madness as well. He's almost turning into Yhwach. Their personalities are matching each other. His fight against Uryu feels like Ichigo and Yhwach light. If you've read the manga and you've now seen this episode, you might understand what I mean by that. Their fight is so centered on retaining and losing hope and dictating the future. I love the action. They did a really good job with the choreography, Jurgam's personality, Jurgam's use of the Almighty, Oryu's arrow barrage. This is definitely going to age me, but it kind of felt like one of those Macross missile barrages. If you don't know what that anime is, I'll do a retrospective on it later. Jurgam is fast. He's running on top of Oryu's arrows. Now, I saw this in theaters. Part 2 of their fight is where the heart of the actual fight is at. Jurgam and Uryu right now, they're being used to expose Yhwach's true plan, which is a new world order. Jurgam pushes Ishida through the floor and they land over a huge distortion, and this is where we get a really amazing lore drop, and I also think a hint towards the Hell Arc. Now, I covered a lot of this in the Yhwach video that a lot of you found me from. Thanks for subscribing. Back on Earth, Tessai, Genta, Uru, they send a hollow back through a distortion. Now, I want you to pay attention to something. I am calling it a hollow simply because as it flies away, you can see the hole in his chest. However, look at the eyes. They remind me of the Kusanada from the Bleach Hellverse movie. Now, in this episode, after the scene with Genta, Jurgam continues on explaining how everything is proceeding as planned. The imbalance of souls, the invasion of Soul Society, the deaths of high-level captains like Yamamoto, Squad Zero, absorbing the Soul King. These are all calculations part of Yhwach's wish to distort the balance of souls and annihilate the 3 worlds. Now let's pause for a second. Even in the Hell one-shot, which is a correction to the Hellverse movie, Kubo writes into the story that it is those distortions in Ryatsu that causes the seal on Hell to become weak. Because of that imbalance, now things like Phasoplasma can leak through, and we see Sazoporo come back. It seems like that framework is already established, and he's just doubling down on it right here through Yhwach's plans. That's where I'm getting my information from. For the ones who found me through that video and were trying to figure out, man, how did I think about it, or how did I come up with it? It was from these scenes right here. Like I said, some information in the final core is going to be very obvious. Some of it is going to be nuanced. Like, this scene only matters, in my opinion, if you read the Hell one-shot. Now, the fight does leave off with Uryu getting back on his feet, and then the rest of the episode is dedicated to the God of Thunder, Yourichi. Askin is a difficult opponent, period. However, something that I noticed is just how much Urahara and Mayuri's fight is going to mirror each other. Yoruichi is Urahara's temporary bunkai. The same way Mayuri experiments on Asashogi Jizo to adapt to situations like recreating him for his battle against Pernita, to be adaptable through multiple layers of nerves, making him impossible to control, Urahara functions in a very similar way, and I'm going to follow up on this thought with another video closer to episode 2, so you can kind of bridge that gap a little bit more between Urahara and Mayuri. But Urahara, he is the exact same person. They're two sides of the same coin. Yoruichi, against her excitement, she gets this medicine injected into her butt and is going to turn her into that Thunder Beast form. It changes Ryatsu nature multiple times, giving her extreme speed and power, and she also can't be poisoned by Askin's gift ball. If you think about it in the funniest way possible, her Thunder Beast form is no different than Konjiki Asashogi Jizo by Taifu Kinshotai. It just has sex appeal. I love the use of lightning, the comedy. It's all mixed in really, really great. Yoruichi and Urahara, they just seem like two old friends. I have no issues with fan service. My one true issue with Yoruichi is that I wish her Raijin Senkai form would have gotten more love before her Thunder Beast form. It's just my opinion, but if Askin was destined to be Urahara's fight, that was destined to be Urahara's finale, then I just wanted to see Yoruichi in her Raijin Senkai form, the form that she chose, to just rack up some wins on some maybe low-tier Stern Ritter. But I also understand that Yoruichi's purpose in the story, and because she plays at such a high level, that she just ends up in these situations, because Yoruichi and Urahara, they're just unique. It's like, if you think about what they do throughout the entire series, they're consistent fighters, but they don't really show up until it is time for the final villain. However, what they don't always offer and consistently being on the battlefield, they make up for in staging, strategy, and ingenuity, like we see with her Thunder Beast form against Askin. Yoruichi and Urahara, they're just honestly an unmatched duo. I just wanted to see Yoruichi get a solo win before going into this moment. I love my women fighters, and I just wanted to see just a little bit more. That's all. I know that might not be the popular opinion, or that might come off as a hot take, or some people might agree, but just regardless, let me know what you guys think. I also believe after my episode 2 review and seeing how things are paced out and strung together, it might just make a little bit more sense when you come back and revisit this review. But regardless, like I said, let me know what you guys think. And that's it. That's where episode 1 leaves us off at, with Yoruichi burning out in her Thunder Beast form, setting up Orihime versus Askin. And if you notice, there's very, very limited screen time in comparison to the movie of Ichigo and Orihime, even spliced in. And I think that's because by the time we get to episode 3 is going to be a hyper focus on just Ichigo, Orihime, and Yhwach. So next week for Saturday, what I'm anticipating is episode 2 is going to cover the next part of Jurgam and Uryu. And then of course, we're going to hopefully see Urahara, Askin, the Bunkai reveal, and all of the cool stuff that I saw in the movies. It's not like cut up in a completely different way where it's so foreign that I can't recognize it. I can just tell that the 3 episodes were originally cut for the movies, and then now looking at it, these are how the episodes are going to play out. And with 10 total episodes left to go, I am interested to see after episode 3 what the rest look like moving forward. But don't forget, this is where you want to be. Every Saturday, I'm going to be doing Bleach reviews, so don't forget to subscribe, turn on alerts you do not want to miss out. You can join the Discord. The link is below in the description, and that's all for me. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.